continue our technical session 2. A warm good morning to all. It's my privilege to welcome our honorable resource person, Dr. Shrudimida Mehta, Assistant Professor, Center for Languages Learning, the Northcap University, Gurugram, Haryana in India. We are glad to have you as the resource person of this session. Now, I request Dr. Shrudimida Mehta to handle this session. This session is over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much for extending a warm welcome. I'm glad to be a part of this conference and would be happy to listen to the papers that have been lined up for this session. So I think we'll allot 10 minutes time for each speaker. We would like to begin with Dr. S. Sandhya Lakshmi, who's an assistant professor and the head of Department of English, Soka Ikeda College of Arts and Science for Women. Ma'am, I would request you to begin with your paper, and you'd be speaking on Sinner to Saint, Transformation of Iron in Anne Taylor's Saint Maybe. So after you've concluded with your paper, I think we can invite questions if there are any.
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
All right, ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Very good morning to the session head and all the participants. I'm Dr. R. Sandhya Lakshmi, Assistant Professor of English, Soka Ikeda College of Arts and Science for Women, Chennai. My paper is Sinner to Saint, Transformation of Eon of Anne Taylor's Saint Maybe. Anne Taylor is one of the prominent writers of America who started her career in 1964 with the publication of If Morning Ever Comes. She wrote on the life and the people of a particular place called Baltimore. And it was a time, when Anne Taylor was writing, it was a time many people were writing with the regional backgrounds. Like the writers wrote on specific regional settings like Dan DeLillo, who wrote on city life. Cynthia Ozick set her novels in Bronx. Mary Gordon and Alice McDermott set their writings in Long Island. Anne Taylor and Richard Bob set their work in Baltimore. So this is a time, that is a period when Anne Taylor started writing, and that was a time when this regional kind of writing was flourishing in American literature. So let us just look at a brief account of American literary tradition. American literary tradition started with the early period where the writings of the native tribes was prominent. The beginning stages of American literature started with the writings of tribal people who had a great reverence for nature, and the writings had a lot of references about nature. It was followed by a period when the Puritan colonization started in America. So this second period was full of this colonial writing and Puritan influences in their writing. And this period was followed by democratic origin and revolutionary age, when the writers felt like they should have their own kind of literature. They should have a nationalistic spirit rather than following the blind models of British. So this period, the nationalistic spirit emerged, and the writings of American own tradition came out. The Romantic period followed that. It started in 1920, 20 years after the Romantic period started in Britain. And this Romantic period, as all of us know, it brings in new ideas, a kind of a creative spirit into American literature. This Romantic period was followed by realism and naturalism. And the period from 1914 to 1945 is called the period of modernization and experimentation. And the second part of 20th century till now is categorized as contemporary period. And in this period only Anne Taylor started her writing. She has written 24 novels and has received several awards. She was awarded Pulitzer Prize, and many of her novels were shortlisted for Man Booker Prize. This research paper is based on her 12th novel, Saint Maybe. The story of Saint Maybe revolves around the character Ian in a very simple household. He is with his father and mother and an elder brother. The elder brother is Danny, and Ian is much influenced, or he admires his own brother Danny, because Danny is a smart, sunny, and an all-rounder character. So Ian's first inspiration is his own brother. So he feels much closer to him than to his parents. The problem starts when Danny informs the parents and his brother that he is in love with a lady called Lucy, who is a divorcee with 2 children. So now Ian starts an instant hatred for Lucy because he thinks that this Lucy is going to distance him from his own brother. So the first feeling of Ian towards Lucy is a hatred, or he feels that his position is being taken over by a new person. And but Danny is very resolute and he marries Lucy with her 2 children. And immediately after their marriage, a daughter is born to them. Daphne is born to them, and they live a very happy life. But Ian feels that he has moved much further from his brother, and he lives with this feeling. And he gets irritated, and his hatred grows more when he has to babysit the child, Daphne, his brother's child, and while Lucy goes out for a long shopping. So Ian feels so bad and he feels irritated that he is not able to spend his time with his own girlfriend or with for his education, and he grumbles over the situation. And to his amazement, whenever Lucy comes back after a long shopping, he finds that she returns without a shopping bags or nothing in her hands. So he suspects that something is wrong with Lucy. And one day, when he has to babysit Daphne for a long time, Lucy comes back without a shopping bags, and she comes in a different dress. She goes in one dress and she comes in a very expensive dress. And the Daphne is born to Danny and Lucy within 9 months of marriage. So Ian strongly feels that this child is not premature. Everybody feels that the baby is premature, but Ian feels that it is not a premature baby, as the baby looks very strong with the dimples and it doesn't look like a premature baby. So with all these inferences, he concludes that Lucy is cheating on Danny. He assumes that Lucy is cheating on Danny and she has an affair with somebody else, and he informs Danny one day that this is what is happening. In a fit of rage, Danny takes his car and he dashes against the stone wall and he commits suicide, which is most unexpected for Ian. Like father-like figure, just like that, he passes away. In very shortly, Lucy also dies, leaving 3 children under the care of Danny's parents. From a friend, Ian comes to know that Lucy was not cheating on Danny, but she was a shoplifter. She used to go for a long shopping retreat just to lift things from shop, and which he cannot carry in a shopping bags. So this shatters Ian completely, because it is because of him 3 children are orphaned with the care of aged parents. So from that day, he develops a schizoid personality, like it is a psychological breakdown for Ian, and he withdraws from his life. He drops out from the school, he drops his relation with Cicely, and now he wants to atone for the sins he has committed. So he takes care of all the 3 children, and not leaving the parents to take care. He takes the responsibility of bringing the 3 children up. In a very young age, he was just a teenager moving on to his 20s, but he becomes the father of 3 children. And with the skill, the carpentry is the only skill he knows, and he pursues that skill, and he joins a church. So far, he was not so religious. Now he becomes religious and totally withdrawn from the active life. He has this schizoid personality, which makes him shuns from all other activities of life, just with only one hope of bringing these 3 children to a very good position. And it takes a long time, and here the 3 children grow up, and Ian is taking good care of them. They settle very well in life. Now, after a very long time, when he's really into his old age, he marries and he fathers a boy. So the researchers, no one knows, except for Danny, no one knows that Ian's irresponsible attitude is the reason for the death of Danny. Without much analyzing the situation, he just blabbers something to Danny, and which causes his death and the orphaning of 3 children. So Ian alone knows it, but he takes the responsibility, and he has to atone for the sin what he has committed, which others do not know, and he dedicates his whole life for the sin he has committed. And finally, at one particular stage, when the children grow up and the children are very happy, and when he feels that he has done the fatherly duties in a very good way, he becomes, from the sinner state, he becomes a saint. He is called a saint because he is not repenting on the sins which others know. It's a secret sin. No one knows about it, but still he repents and he atones for it. So he is the real saint who is moving from a transformation from sinner to saint. From a normal man, he moves to schizoid personality. Then again, he moves to a normal man. Now, this normal man is not a sinner, but he is a saint. That is my research paper, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much. Very well presented. Quite an interesting plot this novel has. So according to you, the intervention of the police and all was not required. So if a person is atoning his sins on his own, it's okay. We do not want
even Danny could have thought for her some time. He could have had some like he knows who his wife is, but still he commits suicide. So there is no question of police coming, ma'am, because everything happens in a very secret way. No one knows. Everything thinks that Danny's car has met with an accident. Only Ian knows that the reason behind the accident is his judgment.
Okay. Interesting paper, ma'am. Okay, so you believe that, yes, he has atoned for his sins and he has actually reached, acquired the stature of a saint.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Very well presented.
Thank
really
you,
appreciate. Any questions from the audience? Okay, thank you, ma'am. If not, we can move on to the next speaker of the day. Because
thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for the Cape Comorin and the college for presenting, giving us this platform, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, ma'am. So I'd like to invite the second speaker of the session today, Paritosh Rawal, who's a PhD scholar, and Dr. Arushi Unniyal, an assistant professor with the Department of English, Modern European and Other Foreign Languages, Birla Campus, Hemwati Nandan Bahuguna Garhwal University, Srinagar, Uttarakhand. And the paper that they're going to present is on a case for Lana Del Rey as an emerging American literary figure. May I invite you to go ahead, please?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Good morning, and my very warm greetings to everyone present. Our paper, which is, just ma'am mentioned, titled A Case for Lana Del Rey as an Emerging American Literary Figure. And this paper is a product of an MA dissertation that Paritosh Rawat worked on during his MA, and I supervised it. He's also the co-author of the paper. Since we are limited on time, I would like to hand over to Paritosh for the formal PowerPoint presentation. But before that, I'd like to quickly mention that with this paper, we're trying to emphasize that Lana Del Rey, who's one of the very popular American singers, we should also celebrate her for her poetic genius. And I like to quickly thank Cape Comorin Trust and Nesamani Memorial Christian College for giving us the space to share our work. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Paritosh. Your microphone, Paritosh.
Okay, so thank you, ma'am, and thank you, the Cape Comorin Trust and the organizer, faculty members, and every scholar present here for providing me this platform and organizing this conference and letting me the chance to present my paper on this very new topic, which is a case for Lana Del Rey as an emerging American literary figure. So before delving into this topic, or before going through this, let me introduce you to the first, like the foundation.
I don't think I can hear the speaker. Is there a technical problem?
One being the concept of the art pop that have inspired me like for the ages. The concept of art pop, actually, it emerges out of the fact that there has been a high distinction between this high culture and the popular culture. And I always wanted to diminish this demarcation. And this is the basic concept why I wanted to write the paper on such an artist. And I feel that why she should be, and I will be exploring this thing, why she should be launched as a literary paper. And in fact, my second concept was poptimism. Poptimism relates to the fact that pop artists, they also need to be taken seriously for their acumen and for everything that they have within. In fact, I would like to also add one thing that recently Lana Del Rey has been launched in the course for literature at the Clive Davis Institute, New York, and she is being studied as a part of the literature. So kudos to her. So let's begin with her introduction, because as you can see, my first slide going under the title, Lana Del Rey, the shanties that bleeds ink, because she has been a pop writer, a pop songwriter who has been also who has also like this touched upon this league of anti-pop writing, because she's a part of the mainstream pop writing through his massive scale best-selling albums and the like this best-selling poetry collection Violet Bent Backwards Over the Grass. But despite that, she has been like one of the pioneers of the songwriters who have tried to focus, to try to like diverge this focus on their converts the focus on their writings rather than the music. And even like in one of her like monologues, she has said that I was a singer, but not a very popular one. I once had dreams of becoming a beautiful poet, but upon an unfortunate series of events, I saw those dreams dashed and divided like a million stars in the night sky. So this is what she has said about her. And in one of her poems, Salamander, inside this poetry collection, she has this line: I love you, but you don't understand me. You see, I'm a real poet. My life is my poetry. My lovemaking is my legacy. So you can see how inherently she is a writer. In one of her interviews after she has released this poetry collection back in September 2020, she has said in an interview that poetry comes to me fully formed. So this shows how consciously or how unconsciously writes everything, and why she always wanted to be a writer first and then a musician later. Then I come to my second slide, it is Lana Del Rey, a trajectory yet to be explored. So why I am picking her at this topic as my research specimen, and why she should be studied further in literature and by other scholars also. The first one is that in one of her interviews, she has said this thing again and again, that she is not the kind of the artist whom everybody would like to be listening or reading to. She is some kind of an artist who is ethereal enough to be read between the lines, and that's why she has a reserved section of female fan base, or the male fan base, or the fan base across the caste and the creed, who love her just because they know how to deconstruct the lyrics, and they know how to see what lies beneath what's being happened on the stage. So if we talk about her writing, some things can be explored, like the first one being the sorrow, the violence, heartbreak, drugs. She's writing about the love. She's writing about eremnesia. Eremnesia means the feeling where you feel stuck in this modern society because you want to belong to the eras of the past. Like in one of her songs and in one of her writings, she says this thing, that Whitman is my daddy, and Marilyn is my mother, and Jesus is my best friend. So again, her passion for the glamour and fame of Hollywood of 60s and 70s, which is quite evident in many of her poems, like Paradise is Very Fragile, and thanks to the locales in this poetry collection, also shows how she always wanted to go back to the Hollywood of the 60s and the 70s, how she is enticed by this very idea of the romance of the past and the vintage culture. And she has also been quite successful in expressing the anxiety, the depression, the identity crisis that the modern people, the modern youth generation is facing these days throughout her poetry collection, and the influences of metaphysics over herself. Like when she says in one of her poetry that when she saw her lover, she felt like the cosmos was baking inside her stomach. So these kind of influences she has, where she draws these far-fetched conceits just to write a poetry and write beyond what physical word can conceive. Then her constant allusions to the popular cultural literature and religion, everything can be found within her poetry and her songwritings if we look at them closely. One of her critics in their journal on her has written about her that she lives in the America's messy subconsciousness, and we can examine it just from the very first line of one of her poems, that is that she is a modern day woman with a weak constitution. So this shows how paradoxical she is in the nature, and why she is living against the glamour and the pop culture that's prevalent in the American society so far, and how she is trying to depict the bleak world and the dying American dream of this American world and the world that follows her. So she is an enigmatic personality in writing because she creates so ambiguous lines between what's reality and the fiction. That's why even in one of her poems, she has said that she knows how to blur the lines between the real and the fake. So and in fact, if we look at back at her history, she has tried to create so many names for her because the original name is Elizabeth Woolridge Grant, and then she adopted this pen name which was Lizzie Grant. Then she went on to become Sparkle Robe Jumper Queen. Then she went on to become take another name that was Dark Black Nancy Gangster Sinatra, and eventually she went on to become this Lana Del Rey. So she has this enigmatic personality in writing, and even in one of her poems, she has used this word you, which is charged with ambiguity because nobody knows who that you is because she is not married. But still, she is writing about her children and about her like this friends and her family, which she doesn't feel that exists. So she has an enigmatic personality and she knows how to blur those lines. She has eco-critical concerns, as we can see in her poem Paradise is Very Fragile, how she raises her concern about the Agora flame burning and about the LA when she says in this poem, like in this poem on this Los Angeles, how she's concerned about the burning Amazon forest and everything that's happening in America, and how this sulfur leakage caused this water pollution that was like really hazardous. Then she also she can be taken as the new voice of the new Americana because she is representing the youth generation to the fullest. How they are like contradictory, how they are presented in the society, how they are anxious, depressed, but how much materialistic they are. She has a feminism of her own kind because if you look at her writing, her most famous lyric that caught much of the criticism was, "You kissed me, but you heard me, but it felt like a kiss." So she has a feminism of her own kind where she's speaking for the women who never wanted to come out, but who still take pride in themselves, the weaker women, but the stronger women also. She has a feminism of her own. She's trying to depict that bleak, dark world which many don't want to. So she herself is an art which is open for interpretation. So now if we look at the features in a poetry collection, there are so many figures of speeches that can be taken. The first, I will just try to give a few examples. Like if we talk about
I'd request you to quickly sum up, okay, because we
yes,
are a little short of time.
okay, ma'am.
Please,
Okay, ma'am.
please,
I
please
will
carry
just
on.
give a few. Yeah, I will just give a few examples. Like if we look at the alliteration, use of alliteration, there is a very beautiful line over her where her illustration can be shown. The perfect patterns punctuate the fabric's yellow blue. So you can see how she has like this alliteration allusions. She keeps on alluding to this popular culture, the politicians, when she says in one of her poems that our leader is a megalomaniac, referring to Mr. Donald Trump. And then metaphors and conceit, like simile, personification, these kind of symbolism. Her confessional tone is also visible there, and her, especially her fascination with Sylvia Plath when she says, "Stay on your path, Sylvia Plath." And she also has parallel with E. E. Cummings because if you look at her poetry, she uses the small I to demonstrate where she feels small and weak. But against then she uses the capital I to show how empowered she is. Then she also refers to this contemporary culture, the popular culture like the Zimmerman and these kind of like high fashion brand. And if we look at a form and mood in the poetry, she has followed this stream of consciousness because within her poetry collection, she has like these interspersed musings in between the pages. Like one of the examples can be given where she says that this universe exists because we are aware of it, and then in the other page she has followed a poetry, and then other page she again says something. So it's more like of a stream of consciousness that she's following in her poetry, and also in the organization of her poetry in the poetry collection. And she also has composed some of her haikus in the poem. And if you look at the visuals, you can see that her stylistic features, that she has these blue blots which represent that she might be crying at that time when she was writing the poetry, and she has imprinted that on the pages also. And look at how she has used this wax crayons to show her creativity and her originality. And she also has these manuscripts of the original and the edited writings. So one of her icons I want to quote over here where she says, "Is it a astronomical twilight or civic twilight?" So these are her some basic features, and I would really love if there are some questions, because all of the questions are welcomed if somebody has any. So thank you. I feel if there are any questions,
Thank you, Paritosh and Dr.
Yes, sir.
Arushi. A brilliant paper, and I really appreciate the topic that you've chosen because Del Rey is I mean, looking at her as a writer and as a poetess, and then highlighting whatever she's done through the various in the manner that you've done it is worth appreciate.
Thank you so much.
Any questions? And also considering that you're just an MS student and then you worked in this manner is worthy. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Questions from the audience? All right. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I had to cut you short because we are at 32 already and we hardly have 30 minutes to go and we have 4 more speakers.
That's fine. And thank you so much for
Thank you.
providing this
Thank you.
platform.
No
Great
worries, ma'am.
listening to
Thank
you.
you so much.
Yeah. Great listening to you. Thank you. I would now like to invite our next speakers. We have S. Lavanya, an assistant professor in English with Sri Sharda College for Women, Salem, Tamil Nadu, and Dr. V. Sangeeta, professor and head Department of English, Periyar University, Salem, Tamil Nadu. And they are going to present their paper, Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower as a Pyro-Epidemic Novel. Over to you, please. We have them here. Do we have S. Lavanya and Dr. V. Sangeeta with us here today? May I request the admin to please help? I don't think they are here as of now. So I think we can invite the next speakers and then maybe if they can join a little later, we can call them. Shri B.M. Gaudar, are you here with us? Can you hear me?
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like you to take over and begin with your
Yes,
presentation.
ma'am.
You
Yes,
want me
ma'am.
to
Sure,
repeat the
ma'am.
topic?
Good morning, everybody, and respected the resource person and the panel members. My topic is freedom is a constant struggle, a feministic light on the autobiography of Angela Davis. So the author that I have taken for my presentation and the paper is Miss Angela Davis. She is a black woman and also she is a political activist in America. Basically, she is from black community and therefore she struggled a lot in her society. In my abstract, I have mentioned that freedom and feminism is intertwined knot, which is difficult to decipher and solve. Many literary authors and critics were emphasizing on this point, yet the struggle for equality has not been attained by any neutralist and women. Even today, also, they are struggling to get the equality for women. And also, if the woman is black, the equality is even more denied. The injustice is twicely given. Injustice was given to them. And the feminist criticism at its earlier stage raised voice against simply on the domination of male in the household and the domestic stage. But at present, in this present context, feminism is an international issue. Women around the world facing various struggles and issues. On this point, this paper is probing a very vital issue that no other woman, no other normal woman of household would experience, because women in India, their struggle is entirely different from the women in America, especially Black American women. So I'm here talking about the Angela Davis and her autobiography. That autobiography title is An Autobiography. So Angela Davis is writing in a dramatic narrative style. Miss Davis unfolds her life story with an enticing poetic prose that reaches out and people and wraps itself around the reader to hold him or her spellbound from first to last. Her full name is Angela Yuan Davis. She was born in Birmingham, Alabama in the year 1944. She attained Birmingham Public School until she left, attained Elizabeth Irving High School in New York. And then she started to teach philosophy in the UCLA, California. She is actually a philosophy professor. This book her autobiography speaks about her early life growing up from part of a Birmingham in Alabama, known as Dynamite Hill. The area which she lives is called Dynamite Hill, because the reason why they have called it as a Dynamite Hill means you can hear the bombing frequently in the black community. They started to put bomb. Is more. And then Communist Party join in a Communist Party, the famous Black Panther Party in 1970. Black Panther Party, a political party that supports idealism. The main idealist of this philosophy is Martin Luther King, and even Abraham Lincoln, such prominent leaders. In her autobiography, she said that there came a point where the revolutionary forces at work in the black community began to express themselves in jails and prisons, a campus unlike any other area in the society. Even the armed forces from the room for any kind of meaningful political activity is so now that obviously, as soon as the prison officials became aware of what's happening, they would confront these new developments with the most devastating kind of repression imaginable. And this is why, when I was involved in all the problems at UCLA surrounding my membership in the Communist Party, when I was fighting for my job, I had just become aware of what was happening in the prisons. And I always insisted that people who were supporting me in my fight to remain my job, regardless of what my political beliefs and political activities were had to look at the prison. She said this in an interview when she was imprisoned. She was imprisoned for the activity which she does not cause. When the police official were arresting Angela Davis, they were they were charged for the possession of armed weapons. Actually, she possessed an armed weapon, which everybody normally in America, people are having the weapons to protect themselves for self defense. But she also has in the same way, but the police, they did not allow her to defend. So what they have done is they just caught her and put her in the prison. There she experienced a lot of trauma. Actually, my thesis is doing my thesis on prison literature, and this work, Angela Davis autobiography, is one of the best, and she expresses a lot of devastating problems in the African American community. So she served, as I said earlier, she served to the Communist Party at first. Later, her objectives became narrower, and she decided to join the Black Panther Party as a radical revolutionary within African American community. And her inclination towards the party has come from her own father, because he himself was a member of the Black Panther Party, and he had many friends too. It's more important to link the struggles of black with the struggles of working class. In either way, they were same in their resistance for African liberation. So when she got imprisoned, lot of good souls, I mean her friends, Angela Davis friends, were supporting out of the prison to free Angela Davis. They have started a campaign to create an awareness that the policemen, the people are not actually doing justice for them. The law is bent for the white people and who has the power. And then Angela pens down all her experience, sharply providing the spectators fact of her poignant living for the sake of clearly passing on unreasonable experiences she encountered while trying to grow to be a voice for the abolition of tyranny in the United States. she uses the narrative as a tool to focus um, political extortion in a way that is translatable to the readers of any level. The novel ends with her exoneration, giving hope that giving hope that the ambience about race in the US will. So even today, for happening for the black woman also, it is chosen this novel. And finally, I would like to conclude. In the concluding chapter, she talks about her trial and exoneration. The other part of her autobiography explains the less known fact her struggles as being a black woman is described. Her unforgettable bad experience is when she was in her imprisonment, where she denied her fundamental rights. It is a most blatant example and political repression that this book seeks to explore. Any black woman reads the autobiography, she and suffering of her life. Growing up as a black person in America is one of the huge existential tasks. They can't survive easily. Instead, their life would be constant struggle and risk in every situation. Angela fights against the system that puts her down. Resistance is in her blood. She was refused to do things because of the skin color. So it is said by Angela Davis in the concluding lines. So thank you for the opportunity, madam, and the organizing team and Capi Comorin Trust. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Savarinath. I agree with what you've said, that Angela Davis's struggle was much more compared to what Indian women have to go through, because she was a black woman and then black and then a woman. So yes, it was multifold. Agree. And thank you very much for bringing out the highlights of the biography, the autobiography. Thank you very much. So I think with this we can conclude the session. I thank you all. Thank you all for your patient listening, and thank the organizers, the university, and the Cape Common Trust for giving me this opportunity to listen to some wonderful papers. I wish we had other speakers also with us today, but it's okay. Next time. Thank you. Thank you so much.